Hey guys, so this morning the new Superman trailer, second trailer, whatever you want to call it, or first full-on trailer, however you want to view it, dropped today, and I thought honestly it was really, really good. It definitely felt like it, conveyed the spirit of the original Richard Donner Superman film, Christopher Reeve Superman films, if you will. The first one, the second one, and I guess in a way you could say the third and fourth one to an extent. But it really conveyed at least the first two Superman films that Richard Donner did, and honestly you could just feel it in what it was showcasing here. The way it starts out basically is it shows that Lois already knows that Superman is Clark Kent and Clark Kent is Superman. Basically, she knows, both are one and the same because he actually agrees to let her interview him as Superman. Not as, just, Clark Kent or anything, but, as Superman. And I think what kind of comes back to, I guess in a way, to kind of bite him, if you will, is because we all know this, being fans of the character and being fans of the franchise for as long as we have, that no matter what interpretation of Lois, you will get, whether she has superpowers herself or gains them later on, or, she's just who she is and so on and so forth. The one thing about Lois is, and this has always been true about her, is she's a very tough individual when it comes to, being a reporter. Basically, she takes her role as a reporter very, very seriously. And by taking it seriously, she, will ask the tough questions. She's the kind of reporter that basically is like, look, even if you were my own flesh and blood, and you asked me to interview you to give your thoughts on certain situations, I'm not going to go easy on you. I'm going to be the reporter, Lois Lane, that asks these questions. I'm not going to be, your daughter, Lois Lane, asking these questions. I'm not going to be your sister, Lois Lane, asking these questions, or your cousin, or anything like that. Or in this case, your girlfriend slash fiance. I'm not going to be that individual because when you ask me to be you ask me to interview you as Lois Lane, the reporter, I'm going to be the reporter. And I think that's what kind of comes back to bite Clark, Superman, if you will, in the rear, because of the fact that yes, he agreed to this, he agreed to this. I guess you could say unequivocally agreed to this. But I think what he forgot to realize is when you're asking her to interview you, you're not asking her to find a balance between being girlfriend and reporter. You're asking her to be the reporter. And I think that's why you see during the clips they show at the beginning of this interview, intersliced with other parts of the film, that kind of touch upon, the questions she's asking him. This is why you kind of see that frustration because I think what's frustrating him is out of all the people that should understand where he's coming from, she's going out and asking these questions, and she has to flat out tell him, hey, I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. And when she says that to him, I think what she's trying to get across is, hey, you wanted me to interview you. Hey, I'm going to interview you as Lois Lane, the reporter, and you as Superman. You didn't ask me to interview you as Lois Lane, your girlfriend, and Clark Kent, my boyfriend. He didn't do that. And I think, again, that's what's coming back to bite him and making him frustrated because she's becoming Lois Lane, the reporter. And what he should have done, honestly, is say, I agree, what he should have done, is agree to not only allow the interview to happen or let her do it, do the interview, but what he should have done is, basically said, hey, when you do this interview, when you do this interview with me, can you do me a favor? And, she'll probably ask, well, what's that? And if I'm him, I would have asked her, to do him the favor of find a balance between being the reporter and being Lois Lane, his girlfriend or fiance. That way she could, before she asks the question, she can think in her mind, okay, as a reporter, I want to ask him this, but as his girlfriend, fiance, I don't want to make him angry, so how do I balance that out? And I think if he would have asked her to do that, he wouldn't have gotten as frustrated in this trailer. But basically, she's asking him all the questions of, him being under fire, about what he's done, being, putting himself in, in the involvement of a war in this, in Bolivia or whatever, the fictional place is, Bolivia or whatever. And, he's just basically saying, look, I did the right thing. I'm only doing what's right, And it's and again, it does frustrate him when she's asking all these questions and all that, about, well, I don't know if I was in your position, if I would have done that and this and that. And it's just getting on him, to the point that he's, basically telling her, if I didn't do something, people were going to die. And I think that's going to be the point right there to where maybe she'll stop the interview. She'll, press stop on her, or pause on her, let me see if I got it right here. On her recording device, because she uses something like this. It's not the exact same model, but she uses something like this, and basically basically I think what's going to happen when she sees it's really getting to him, and he's telling her that if he didn't do something, people were going to die. I think what she's going to do is hit stop or pause on that recording device, and then she's going to probably hug him, maybe apologize for getting too tough with him with the questions, but she's also going to remind him as she's apologizing, you did agree to let me interview you as Superman. And then maybe she's going to tell him, so I'm interviewing you, so when you asked me to do that, you asked me to be reporter Lois Lane, not your girlfriend. And then maybe this is also where she'll explain to him that, hey, if it's not me asking you this question, it's going to be others. So in a way, she's going to probably say, look, I'm just preparing you for the inevitable, but that you are going to have to face when being asked questions from other, other reporters, other news outlets, in the world around, in the world and in Metropolis, and all that. So that's what I see probably happening after the, during this interview. She's going to pause it and then embrace him, apologize, but also let him know, hey, you asked me to interview you, so I interviewed you as the reporter Lois Lane, not as your girlfriend, and also this is something you're going to have to deal with going forward. Now, what's interesting about this too is throughout this we also see Lex Luthor in here, and obviously he is very, very, I wouldn't say racist, but very extreme hatred and disdain for Superman. Maybe there is a bit of racism or speciesism towards him, whatever you want to call it. But he is very just like not liking of Superman. He just straight out, disdains him to a point that he doesn't consider Superman a person or a hero or an alien. He calls him an it. And apparently when he does capture Superman, and it looks like Superman in one of the clips of the trailer does willingly surrender when he, surrender basically. Luthor puts him in this containment area along with other metahuman superpower beings, but he has one being he's in the container with, Metamorpho, who can shapeshift his body into any element needed. And Metamorpho has like part of his hand, changed into kryptonite to kind of keep Superman in place, so that he could get beat on and everything by Luthor's guards or paid off assassins or minions or whatever. And basically, you have, like I said, Lex Luthor just so angry with Superman's presence that he goes as far as to invade the Fortress of Solitude, take out the robots. You have Crypto protecting it, and he's attacking. I don't think they're going to hurt Crypto, because the one thing I know they're not going to do, hopefully, is kill an animal or at least injure an animal or something like that. I think what's going to happen is he's going to escape and he's going to go to Clark. He's going to go, off to where his master is and let him know what's happening. Because we do see Crypto at the end of the film, at the end of the trailer, I should say, laying on top of Superman while Superman's laying on his bed. On his childhood bed, that is. So I don't think anything's going to happen to Crypto. He's probably going to escape and let Superman know what's happening and everything. That's what that's what I'm hoping for, because I don't think James Gunn would go to that length, if you will, and try to hurt or make it seemingly like he's gonna kill off a character like Crypto. I don't think he would do that. The trailer, though, like I said, overall does a great job here with presenting who Superman is. What the original intent was from not just the very beginning of the comic book franchise itself, but from what Richard Donner and Christopher Reeve, immersed themselves in with the original films. So I like what we're getting here. I like the presentation, and it's got me more excited than ever to want to see this. Basically 14 days, 2 weeks before my birthday in July. And July is going to be a heck of a month for me when it comes to movies, because not only will I have Superman to look forward to, but we have Fantastic Four First Steps as well. But again, overall, the trailer I think did a great job here. Getting me hyped up, getting a lot of people hyped up. Because you're hearing nothing but positive news when it comes to this trailer, for the film, and also the early screenings, test screenings people are getting, the more recent ones, people have been enjoying. So I'm really excited for this and cannot wait and everything. And I think the person in that armor of Bolivia suit, if you will, that's attacking Superman during the trailer, I don't think that's a robot or anything. I think that's Luthor in there. I don't think it's anybody else. I think it's Luthor, and that's just going to be like his first interpretation of the suit he wears going forward. But overall, I'm looking forward to this trailer. What are your thoughts, guys? What did you think of the new trailer for Superman? Comment down below, like the video.